We love chefs, but we don't do chefs. This is a site by and for home cooks and by and for regular old people. And if you don't know technique, that is okay.
Hey guys, what's good? And welcome to the COSIGN Life. If you're watching this video, that means you co-sign us and we co-sign you. So here are a couple of ways to support us at COSIGN Magazine. Number one, view the description below, click the link, and purchase an issue of COSIGN Magazine. Just like this one right here, physical. You can purchase this. Number two, you can also support us by purchasing COSIGN merch. Hit the link below and it'll take you to all our past merch items, and we'd love to have your support and see you wear COSIGN Magazine. Episode of COSIGN Conversations. This time we have the beautiful, amazing, intelligent women behind Familia Kitchen. But without further ado, I want you guys to give yourself an introduction. Let our audience know who you are individually, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. So yeah, I'll kick it off and I'll toss over to Angela, who does so much for everything that's Familia Kitchen. So my name is Kim Cavanis. I grew up in Puerto Rico. I've been living in the States since I was about 13, and I always miss my homeland and the food. And after, I always worked in publishing and magazines. I worked at Condé Nast for a while. I worked in film for a while. I worked in journalism a lot and content marketing. But what I love to do for myself is cook. And so Familia Kitchen is a love song to my heritage and everybody's heritage who comes from a Spanish speaking place and misses where you grew up. And we can, our tagline is cooking our way home, and that's what we're here to do. We're creating and hustling, creating this entire business by respecting the community, telling their stories, saving these recipes that are getting lost with the abuelas, and then just paying it forward to the next generation to inspire them to connect to where you come from through how you cook, and by asking your grandmothers and mothers and cousins and everything, like, what are those family famous recipes that really define who you are and who your family is, so that we can pay it forward and keep it going.
For sure. That's amazing. It's amazing. What about you?
I'm Angela. I'm the director of social media for Familia Kitchen. The way I got started with Kim and everything was we had initially been coworkers at a different company. When I first came out of college, it was my first job. And, I'm very early on in my career. I'm only 25. And so working with Familia Kitchen has kind of been a really great way to combine a lot of different passions for me. I have a background in journalism, which I love, and I'm also Mexican and Puerto Rican. So it's kind of allowing me to reconnect with my culture in a different way. I grew up here, I was born here, but my mom was born in Mexico, and my family, very much the heritage and everything growing up here is a little bit different. That LatinX background is a little bit different than if you were, born directly from that country and coming here. So it's really nice to dive into the recipes and to get to, look at the stories and share everything behind it, because it's very personal for me too. It makes me think about, recipes I shared with my grandparents, and just being able to kind of come together and be like, wow, you grew up making it this way. My family grew up making it this way, but we all made the same thing. Right. So it's just really, really great to be able to combine all of that together.
That's awesome. It's a perfect segue, because I was excited to this interview because I don't know if Raquel told y'all, but both my parents are from Panama. So I'm Afro-Latino, which is a new thing. When I was growing up, I didn't really understand what that was, like, because all our friends and family were Spanish speaking, Black, brown. So I just thought it was normal. And then as I got older, I realized that Afro-Latino was a whole thing. But so one of my favorite dishes my mom would make growing up was Arroz con Pollo, or Arroz con Verduras. And as I got older, I started, meeting new people, and I realized that, I would say different countries make it in different ways.
Yeah.
And I never knew that. I'm like, well, this doesn't look like my mom, but it's still great. It's amazing. So I want to kind of start off like, what's your favorite dishes, and why do you think, I guess they're made differently in different regions?
Yeah. Okay. I'm so happy you said Arroz con Pollo, because literally that's how the website that's how it was started. Okay. Arroz con Pollo is also our national dish, right? It's everybody's national dish. Everyone does it differently.
Right.
We've been doing so much interesting research. Today, we just posted a story called arepas versus pupusas versus empanadas. You know, what are they? How are they different? How are they the same? And everybody has a fiercely different take on them, but they come from the same humble ingredients. Same with arroz con pollo. Puerto Rico, that's your national dish. My mom, you know, I grew up making that. I was looking for inspiration one day, and I went to one of the major food sites, and it said arroz con pollo, chop a jalapeno, and get started. And what? Right? That's not. I was like, who did this? Love jalapenos, but they're in Mexican. They're not in Puerto Rican. They're not in arroz con pollo. And I thought, this is somebody trying to be very cool and inclusive, but just accidentally getting it wrong because it's so confusing. It's so confusing because Latinos are all so different, yet we're all the same. On the one hand, food from Mexico and Peru or Panama are as different as food from Germany to, England. They're in Europe together and they're neighbors, but they're super different. On the other hand, we speak Spanish. So it does get confusing. And so that's when I thought to myself and my co-workers here, I'm like, let's start a site and let's ask the abuelas. They know how to do this. It's as easy as asking an abuela. So that's what we're doing. We're going and finding all the abuelas, all the moms, all the dads, everybody who cooks and says, what is your family famous recipe and why do you make it this way? And so amazing. With Panama, we've been learning so much. We have all these recipes now, enugados, we have empanadas, we have carimañolas, all these delicious, delicious things that I'm learning about. And it's the same humble ingredients over and over. And that's what we're about. And no one is gathering these stories in the way that we are, with heart, with love, with respect for the community. We byline them to you and then we bring them forward. One of the other things that's happening in our culture today is that everybody's just ordering out all the time, right? Especially with COVID. And so it's kind of giving a lot of people this feeling that cooking is hard, I can't do it. And when we start to kind of take on learned helplessness like that, you really can make a few things and your stuff is good. It comes from your family. It's your heart and soul food. Don't let that go and just give it away and order it out and get unhealthy, right? So the way our grandmothers all made it, they were all slim as sticks, because, even though they're eating all this rice and all this stuff. And it's just like, we need to bring back our food, bring it back the way we make it, and reclaim a little bit of it so that we can feel connected and empowered and like part of our family culture and history.
For sure. And I love how you say connected, because I deal with that a lot too. So like my mom really never taught me how to cook. It was just her and my sister in the kitchen. So, as I got older and, people realize I'm Panamanian, they're like, okay, well, make me something. I'm like, well, call my mom and get the recipes. So from when y'all created this site and started receiving these recipes, how would you say, is it pretty easy for somebody who's coming in who hasn't have any experience cooking, or do you prefer them to have some type of experience to follow these recipes?
I can definitely speak to that. Having to go through all the recipes and figuring out like what to post on our social media. One of the things that I love about the recipes that we share is that because they're coming from families and your abuela, your tia or whatever, sometimes your tia, she doesn't measure things. She'll just do a sprinkle of this, a sprinkle of that, and she'll tell you that's all you got to do. And I think that's the best part is, it's different for each family. And we make it very clear in a lot of the articles that if you don't like it this way, you can try it, in your own way, whatever way, feels right to you. And I think that's what makes it, sorry, background. I think that's what makes it so accessible. So I don't think you need to have amazing culinary skills to try a lot of these recipes. Most of it is you get in the kitchen and it's about spending time together, trying out these recipes.
Right. No, that's amazing, because like I said, I've tried a couple of times. I'm like, Mom, it doesn't come out how you make it. What am I doing wrong? It's just more about the process and the journey of trying it. And,
I would love to call your mom, by the way. Maybe we can call her together and pull out some Panamanian recipe. That'd be really fun. And then
for sure.
It's a very important one to you, because that's how it happens. And then it starts these conversations. And next thing you know, your mom's remembering, who taught me this? Tia Clara. And then next thing you know, you're talking to her, and then you find her kids and you have different recipes somehow along the family line, and then you can compare them. And it's really very cool.
Exactly.
It back there, and it's important. We're preserving this legacy, and we're preserving cooking and cookbooks and the stories that go around it as a super authentic oral history. And we're just capturing it and paying it forward in a way that isn't mediated by the need for, yes, we're business women and business people, but we also, it's audience first and it's community first.
Definitely. And also what I love is reintroducing individuals to their culture. When I was growing up, my parents made it it made it mandatory that I dance typical. So like I had to dance, you know, official Panamanian dances. And then growing up, I hated it, but it wasn't until I got older to which I thanked them. Like, I appreciate you for like really having me in tune with my culture, because now I'm able to talk about it and understand why we did this. And, you know, because this community these days is like, I feel like each generation we lose a little bit. So we have to we have to figure out a way to, you know, introduce, you know, our children and our children's children to our culture, make it an enjoyable experience, you know. So I think that's amazing what you guys are doing. And it's starting with food, but you know, it's also about culture.
It's heart and soul and front and center culture, and it's opening up to, you know, the home cooks are the ones that are keeping it going, and we love chefs, but we don't do chefs. This is a site by and for home cooks and by and for regular old people. And if you don't know technique, that is okay, because you know what, our grandmothers didn't either, and our grandfathers didn't either, and they cooked the best food. So it's really just very inclusive and welcoming, and we just want to make it the largest, the most authentic, and the most respectful, definitive treasury of all Latino cooking, Latinx cooking, you know, from all the Spanish-speaking places we come from. And that's our goal. And we will be. We're going to be the biggest and the best, and unmediated by, yes, there's business, but we're going to, whatever the story, whatever your recipe is, that's what we're going to honor. We're not going to correct it. Yes, we'll take it into test kitchens and make it, and maybe we make it different, but we're not going to correct yours. You're the authority, and that's how it goes.
So I have to ask this before we continue. What are you guys' individual's favorite dish and why?
Angela, you want to go first?
Sure. I'd say for me, it was tamales, just because my personal connection with it is it was very much my whole life. Every Christmas, we made tamales. And as I've gotten older, I'm more involved with it, and I know better the recipe that is carried on in my family. When I was a kid, you know, I'd help with one little thing here and there, but I didn't really know like all the steps that go into it. My mom, my grandmother, and I would all be in the kitchen Christmas Eve all day long, Christmas Eve day, making tamales. We'd make like a huge batch of like 100 something tamales, and I mean that lasted like a long time. Like all of the month of January, we're eating tamales, but you know, it was really great. And I think that's probably one of the recipes that I like connect the most with.
That's awesome.
You know, mine is from my husband's side, from LA. We have a cousin who is New Mexican, but with Mexican cooking heritage. And she just showed up here because we were cooking. We're working on a cookbook, which is a news, but we just cooked so much. We cooked 100 dishes in 15 days and shot them all for the cookbook. But she showed up with a tortilla press. And as a Puerto Rican, you know, Mexican is, I love it, but it was always like over there, and Mexican was my food. And so just like literally creating the corn masa from the masarina and making and putting in the corn press, I just felt like so connected to all the Latino people and just corn. You know, corn is the beginning of humanity, and it's the first food we probably all had, and we still love it. And what the Mayas and Incas and all of our indigenous ancestors did together with corn, that it's still fundamentally what we're eating today, the tamal, and that's all part of it. Literally, it hasn't changed, you know, since thousands of years. And that is so profound and so beautiful. And we don't need to chef it up. We can just cook it the way we are. And that's what families feel, you know, it goes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like food and love and community and connectedness are so tied together. So tortillas.
No, that's amazing. So what's the process like of somebody submitting a recipe? Kind of walk us through that. Is it pretty difficult? They just email it in, and then from there, how does it go onto the site? Like, walk us through the whole process if y'all can.
So it's always a conversation. People email us and we get blank submissions, and then we reach out to them to thank them, find a little more about them, write up you know, ask them who taught you this, why is it meaningful to you, capture their family story, get some photos, and then we just repost it. Oftentimes it comes from sourcing things. People always think their food isn't good enough. And so sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm looking for Argentinian chimichurri. Who's got one? Who has an Argentinian friend? And then I literally cold call. So it's always a combination. And a lot of it is affirming. You know, your recipe is if it's family famous in your family, that's what we want. And just respectfully getting it from them. Like Angela said, they're like, okay, I do, you know, así como así de spices. And so I'm like, okay, I think that's about a teaspoon. It's, you know, so we're guessing, we're working with them, and we're capturing it together. So that's the power. And from this is to create an entire publishing platform. You know, Angela is a master at getting all the stories out across social media and making them be shared, but cookbooks. We want to do print. We want to do podcasts. We want to be the 360 brand that lovingly and respectfully kind of reimagines that cooking by and for the people is what we're going to go forward with and celebrate that. And we're not going to ever have somebody who's more expert than somebody else. It really is this egalitarian background and platform to put it out there, and everyone's welcome, no matter how long you've been here. As long as you're from somewhere else and you miss home, welcome here. Let's cook together.
No, that's amazing. I've also read that you guys host a contest. It's an annual contest, right? Can I tell us more about that? And I know what the grand prize is two tickets home, right?
Yeah. Let's go and talk to your mom. Let's go to Panama.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. But
Yeah.
every month, we organize a food contest, and like right now it's tamales, Angela. So let's get talking to your mom. But we have tamales.
Oh yeah.
Seriously. So we reach out for everyone's your family favorite tamales. It's submitted. We post them. We cook them all. We sort of pick 3 that stand out for being different or very authentic or having a fascinating new approach. We post them. Angela puts them all over social media, and then we get like flan. Flan went crazy. We had a flan contest that just got paid off, and people loved it. Everyone loves a good flan, and it's always looking. And then once it's voted, then we have a monthly winner, right? It also really is a way for us to organize recipes that reflect the fullness of Latino community. So, we will have Panama. We did have Panama. We had empanadas, and we definitely go back a lot to the well with Mexico, Puerto Rican, and DR, Dominicans, because they're a huge part, But we do want to get Nicaragua. We want to get Venezuela. So we'll hit them all over the course of the year. And then the one that gets the most likes, shares, we have a little algorithm. We're going to send that person +1 home to their homeland. So you literally can cook your way home, which is nice. And come back with a recipe or not, but we just want to send you home, and your food will get you there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. During COVID, I know it was kind of difficult for people to do, in-person events, but I could definitely see like a dinner experience you guys creating, maybe post-COVID or, some type of gala where, the dishes are nothing but authentic Hispanic food. Have you guys thought about maybe doing like some in-person touch points or what's kind of next for you guys?
Yeah, so person-to-person cooking points?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's happening already on our, on TikTok. We have a mother-daughter Panamanian duo, and they get together, and you can see them cooking together. And I think a lot of us didn't know how much we didn't know until COVID happened. Where, as you said, Casey, everyone's like, "Mom, how do you make that thing again? It's Arroz, I forgot." So they're happening anyway organically. We want to capture those and definitely bring them back onto the site, share the experience. The cookbook will start to also create that, and just starting to do series and cooking classes and cooking challenges. But at the end of the day, it's using food and writing and recipes as a conversation for all publishing platforms. Right. So I think cookbook. What else, Angela? Podcast.
Yeah, podcasts. My favorite is when we get, other accounts, other, people who are kind of big on social media to try some of the recipes on the site on their own. I was even thinking, like a good old fashioned, like virtual, like how to is always really fun because, no, we can't all be in the same room right now because of COVID and everything, but you can still connect. And I think that's the great thing about all these recipes and Familia Kitchen in general is like getting into the kitchen is a great way to connect.
No, for sure. I was a part of a Hennessy initiative where we made Hennessy infused coquito. And it was so good. I mean, it was messy, but it was virtual. It was virtual. Like they mailed us the packages to make it, and then on Zoom we all went over the steps, directions one by one, and then at the end we all tasted it and had a drink. But it was a great experience. So I think that's pretty cool. So earlier you guys told us like where the ideas came from and what made you want to do it. But I want to say, what was like that first aha moment when you realized that this is actual possible and it's going somewhere? Like, who was like your first initial adopter or co-sign or supporter that kind of like helped you realize that I'm doing the right thing?
That's a good question. When we launched it October 6th of last year and started putting some phone calls to friends of mine who I knew loved to cook, right? Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Mexicans, Angela, I called Angela right away. Everyone just said, gosh, there's nothing like that, which is so surprising because and on the one hand, it's a really obvious idea. On the other hand, nobody was doing it. So it's one of those sweet spots that came in, and we just started posting recipes. And Angela can say this, we're really surprised. Oh, Angela wrote this piece. Tell them about your Candelaria story. That was so surprising to us and really taught us a lot.
Yeah, I think the other side of the content on the site, aside from the contests and the recipes, is we've got a few pieces, and I know we plan on doing a few more that are kind of give you like a good historical background on traditions that you might have grown up with in your culture that you never really knew the background on. So there's the Dia de Candelaria, which stems from the Three Kings Day. So in Mexican culture, we have the Rosca de Reyes, which is like a pan dulce. And it's this big ring, and there's like a tiny little plastic baby that gets hidden in the little ring. And so when you cut your piece, if you end up with the baby, on February 2nd, you're supposed to come everyone together again, and the person who got the baby is supposed to bring tamales. And for me, that's kind of where my knowledge ended. I knew we did this tradition. I never fully understood like why. And so I ended up writing a piece for the site about the Dia de Candelaria and the whole history behind it. Like, where does that tradition come from? Why do we come together again on February 2nd? And so, not to ruin the whole piece, definitely go check it out on the site. A lot of it has to do with the Catholic tradition, the baby Jesus. The idea was that on February 2nd is when he would have been presented at the temple for like presentation. So
explode like we were stunned at how that piece outperformed almost everything that we had posted to that until that date. It just everyone's like, I never knew this. So we were connecting food and culture and history, and also how fascinating that it intersects with Three Kings Day Epiphany and Groundhog Day. And these are all connected from the old Roman Catholic calendar.
Yep.
And therefore the foundation of culture, but we didn't even know about it,
No, all I knew was that, if you got the little bread, it was your job to make the tamales. And that was all I really knew. So I think that could be said for a lot of people, especially like you mentioned earlier, growing up here in the US, you kind of lose a little bit of that culture. Like, yeah, your family might teach it to you a little bit, but some of those traditions might get lost along the way, or, you just don't really know the full backstory behind all of it. So I think that's another way that we're helping people reconnect with their culture, is that they're kind of relearning like, wow, this is why we did this growing up. That's crazy.
Right. No, that's amazing. Speaking of reconnecting, like how often do each of you get to go home back to Puerto Rico, Mexico? Is it like, how often do y'all get to go back?
Well, strangely enough, I was just there after not being there for many years. I was just there a week and a half ago because my mom decided after not being in Puerto Rico for 30 years that she wanted to go live there to retire. So I literally she's going to live with us. And she's like, no, I want to go to my country. I don't want to be cold. So I just got back to Puerto Rico, which I never, if you'd asked me a month ago, I'm like, I'm not going, so I'm delighted now. Now we have family and it's super connected and it's through my mom, and I'll be going to Puerto Rico a lot. How about you, Angela?
I actually haven't been back to Mexico since I was a kid, in terms of like going to visit family. I've done the whole little resort thing, which isn't really the same thing as, going and being with your family. So that is on my list of plans. Like, I really want to go back and visit all my uncles and aunts and everyone there. A couple years back, I actually got to go to Puerto Rico for the very first time, which was really cool. Just to get to know the place, because though I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican, I'm actually like the majority is Mexican and like a little bit Puerto Rican. And so I grew up with a lot of my Mexican side and not so much of my Puerto Rican side. And so that's also something that I've been able to like get in touch with a little bit better since working with Familia Kitchen, is like just through food, being able to ask one of my godmothers, because she's a great Puerto Rican cook. And, when I went to Puerto Rico, she recommended like, you have to try mofongo, like you have to try it because it's one of those things, like it's something you got to have. And then now to see like the recipes on Familia Kitchen is really great, just because it gives me that little connection that I didn't really have before.
That's amazing.
Easy question for you. When were you last in Panama?
2017, 2018, 2018.
That's not bad.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, my dad actually is moving back the 22nd of September. So
that's awesome. You have the same thing I do. You'll not have to go there for I don't know, Christmas vacation or during
I'm
the
actually
summer.
going for Christmas. He wanted me to go
Yeah.
to help him move, but I have some other things going on. So I'm taking my daughter for Christmas to go spend it with him in Panama. He's
We're gonna go to the old part of downtown, that wonderful Gothic-y,
Panama.
Gótica, right? See that? What's it called? The old part of town. It's beautiful.
It is. He's actually moving to the city, so I'm excited because I have a lot of friends always ask me like, "Hey, where can we go? We go there." And you know, he's thinking about buying some different condos, so like help him with Airbnb. So it's a nice opportunity because we were originally from Panama. I wouldn't recommend anybody going there. Like if you're not from there, I wouldn't recommend anybody going there. So, but the city is different though. So you know, that's amazing. So even got with you in your personal life, how often do you guys get to cook just for pleasure, not anything to do with business? How often you got to get in the kitchen and just enjoy yourselves?
It's changed a lot, right? Ever since we launched this, and just having come off this cookbook, where literally it was like the hardest film production you've ever done. We would wake up, three of us, and cook from 7:30 to 10:30 at night, and then shoot all day long, cook. So that just ended 4 days ago, and I'm still kind of recovering. But I'm actually kind of excited to make tortillas. I'm gonna get them for the first time by myself and use a tortilla press and see how it works. And I'll destroy it at first, and it'll be terrible, but then I'll get good. So that's how it works, especially when we cook across our cultures. But it's also just amazing to think about turning. This is something you think a lot about, I'm sure, KG, is like turning what you love into your business. When does it begin? When does it end? You worry maybe about ruining it, but in my case, I can't ruin it because I've been that person when I go to anywhere, I'm like, what do you cook at home? It's my anthro question to ask people. And I always feel it's so revealing of who people are. So no, I'm so happy to cook. I'm always experimenting, but usually it's to shoot something to put it on the website.
What about you, Angela?
I do cook throughout the week, but that's more of like, gotta make dinner, gotta have something. In terms of just like for enjoyment, I'd say every once in a while I get to do that. I think COVID really upped that for a lot of people. It made people like get back in the kitchen, which was nice. I did a lot more baking. I'm honestly more of a baker than I am a cook. So I really like, putting something in the oven, walking away. I love sweet stuff. So yeah, I'd say every once in a while I get to go in there and just like have a good time trying something out.
That's amazing. Okay, so due to time purposes, two questions, two-part question I'd like to ask you guys. One, for somebody who's never heard of Familia Kitchen and wants to get an introduction, what is one thing you would tell them like they have to do or have to try on the website or the social to look for to kind of get a better perception of you guys? And then for two, I would say, what is one recipe on the site that you found that you loved and that you co-sign and definitely recommend somebody to try?
Co-sign. The first answer?
You go ahead.
I would say for somebody who's new, come in and lurk. We welcome lurkers, and comment away and try things. And don't be afraid to ever fail, because these are the recipes that have been worn down to simplicity through use and repeatedness. So what we're trying to do is find the simplest, kindest, most delicious recipes that don't have 10,000 steps. So we want to welcome you in, and it's okay if you've never cooked before. We're your entryway to discovering this whole world of your own culture and other people's culture. And then I would say guacamole. Guacamole, we have a lot of them, and they're delicious and they're really different. Some have bouillons, some don't. Some are really simple. Some have 5 ingredients, some have 10 ingredients, and it's just a very easy thing for new people to come in and get started. And there's nothing like a guacamole and a margarita and learning how to make them the authentic way, just to be welcoming, make you feel good, and invite your friends over safely because of COVID. Invite your friends over to just start getting back into the kitchen and making it this thing that you don't fear, and that to create the community that we all crave. Food right. is what helps to make it warm and welcoming and gives you a reason to get together.
Definitely. What about you?
I'd say for someone new who's never heard of the site, I'd say if you really want something authentic, because like Kim, I've heard you tell the story before where you were looking for like, I think was it arroz con pollo?
Arroz con pollo, yeah.
Yeah, and the recipe for Puerto Rican arroz con pollo, and like it involved a jalapeno, which no disrespect to people who love the spiciness, but in terms of a Puerto Rican, it just didn't, that's not authentic. That's not the way it's made. So I think if you're looking for something truly authentic that comes from, you know, people who truly love the food, then I think Familia Kitchen is a great place to go. And then in terms of like a recipe that I co-sign, I'd say there's an arroz con leche recipe on there that I think is really great. I just like the idea of like, you know, we're getting into like the warmer or the colder months or whatever. So that's the kind of recipe that I'd like to like stay at home, make, sit in front of the, you know, TV, sit on the couch and have a little bit. So I'd co-sign that one.
That's amazing. And when can we expect this cookbook?
Okay, good question. So we just shot everything. The goal is to have it out in the market by February so that it's ready for Mother's Day. We think it could be the Mother's Day gift between all Latinas up and down, grandmothers, moms, kids, TikTok, next generation, as a way to kind of connect around these recipes that are our shared heritage and with all the stories and the faces. But these are like tried and true, they're family famous recipes. So it's the very best guacamole that this family who is known for their guacamole is going to be making. And we're trying to make them all as simple as possible, but as essential as possible. So yeah, February for Mother's Day. That's the goal.
I always, speaking of Mother's Day, I always get in trouble because in Panama, Mother's Day is in December, and I'm just not so used to it. So I always forget. My mom be like, "You never got me nothing for Mother's." I'm like, "Hey,
hold on, I've never heard of this." So it's in. Yeah. Is this the only country that it's in December?
I'm not sure if it's the only country, but I know we celebrate it in December as well. I gotta figure out the date. I'm gonna figure out the date and I'm gonna message you guys with the date.
Yeah, and in Mexico, it's always a few days off from the American like Mother's Day. I know they're always very close together, which kind of saves me because if I miss one, I have the other.
Yeah, no, I was completely whole different month.
Idea. Let's surprise your mom and let's celebrate her arroz con pollo with you posting it, and we'll dedicate it to her, and we'll tell a story about how she taught it to you, and we'll do it in December.
That's amazing.
So that it can be your homage to her and to the food that you love so much as you're getting ready to go back to Panama. It's all coming back together.
Exactly. Yeah, no, she'll love that. She's huge in the, her city of Killeen of pushing, Panamanian culture. Like I said, she teaches dance. Has so many kids travel to dance. They go to New York for the Panamanian Day Parade in New York all the time. So it's amazing to see. So I know she'll love that recognition. So I'm honored. Before we got here, any last words? Like I said, I love what you guys are doing. It's amazing. Not like I said, only for cooking, but for community and culture. And I feel like our generation definitely needs with the platform you guys are providing. And I love that it's really has a niche to it because there aren't many platforms like this. So like now we have something, we can go to and kind of come home, because you can get lost and go into other, culinary websites looking for something around your culture and tradition. So I'm glad that this is kind of made for us, and we can definitely pass this on and share this with family, friends, cousins, and everybody. So this is amazing. But I just want to use this last couple of minutes so, you guys give any last words to our audience, especially with Hispanic Heritage Month coming out when this will be released.
Shout out to what Angela's doing, because we want to be wherever our audience is. So if they're on TikTok, we're going to be there. If they're on Instagram, we're going to be there. If they want a print cookbook, we're going to be there. So let us know. We'd love to hear from our audience. And there's some countries that we don't yet have represented enough, right? So Belize, Nicaragua. So we're hustling to get those. So if you're from a place and you don't see yourself represented, let us know, and we want to work with you. And we'll call anybody and help you get the recipes that are important to you and that matter to you. And then we'll put it in the format that you need to get that out to you and your friends. So it's definitely a two-way conversation, and we welcome all that. And that's how we want our business to grow and respectfully reach everybody. Everybody who's in America who misses home, and capital H home, that big idea of home, that the well of who you are and your identity and how you want to connect with your friends through what's important to you. That's where we want to be, in that center space. So that comes from connecting and listening to people, and we're right here, ready for that.
Sounds great. I appreciate y'all guys so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. It's been really fun.
Oh, for sure. I'll definitely connect with you guys offline as well. And
Mother's Day in December.
Yeah. Shoot us a link to this. I'd love to share it across, all our platforms for sure.
Definitely will do. And I'll send it to Raquel as well. Any other information you guys need from us, just let me know, and vice versa.
Thank you, COSIGN.
Thanks so much.
Good, y'all. You have an amazing day.
Take
You
care.
too.
All right.
Hey guys, what's good? Thanks for supporting COSIGN Magazine by watching this video. If you really enjoyed this content, please subscribe, like, comment, and share.